Why am I older and single? I'm afraid of being rejected.
Yeah.
It's certainly not because I'm not qualified. It's mainly how I think about myself. Man, that's easier said than done. One of the reasons I hit it off with the girl I'm dating now is like, I think the church does give us some mixed signals on dating too. As men, we're told like you got to pursue the woman, but at the same time we're supposed to trust God. So I'm like, how do those two can feel opposing? Trust God and wait versus he who finds a wife, you know?
Yeah.
If you believe that you're not going to meet somebody, if you believe there's nobody left for me, like that could be the reality. Like you have to believe that God's a good God, that like as I seek him, this is all that I've needed. I know the Lord will provide.
Last thing on dating, any specific advice you'd have for me?
Challenge yourself constantly.
You have to be a little bit patient. The whole idea is you have to become content in singleness.
I'd be lying if I said I haven't fired off some Instagram DMs.
The word dating is not mentioned in the Bible.
I dedicated my life at Tomorrow World to Jesus.
Welcome to the Single Man Podcast, where we delve into candid conversations with Christian men about their journey to faith, advice for their younger selves, and navigating dating. With a heart to reach men from all walks of life, dive into real stories of redemption, growth, and the hope found in following Jesus. I'm your host, Carlton French, a 29-year-old single Christian, and I'm excited for you to listen to this week's episode. Let's jump into it. Hey everybody, it's Carlton French. We are back with another new episode of the Single Man Podcast, and today I am joined with my good friend Joel Wyse.
That's right. We're here, man.
We're here, making it happen. Joel, how you doing this Friday?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
It's hot today. Yeah.
It's a hot one here in Atlanta, Georgia this Friday.
Yep.
But we're here, we made it. We've been talking about this for months actually.
We have, bro. Like, yeah, it's been a while and I've been putting it off and making excuses. But honestly, like God's timing is perfect. So yeah, I'm so excited that we're here and going to get into some good conversation on this stuff. So
Yeah. I just want to thank you specifically, Joel. Joel's been a great encouragement to me, kind of getting the podcast going and commenting on the YouTube videos, encouraging things and pieces of wisdom that you've gained from the podcast yourself. And so that's meant a lot to me, and just stepping out in faith and doing something new. And I know we've talked about that this would have been something like when you were younger in your 20s and 30s, this could have really benefited you, hearing from other men who are single and trying to navigate faith and dating. And so excited to have you on today as a 38-year-old single man living here in Atlanta, Georgia, and get to talk a little bit about how you've navigated dating and faith through your 20s and 30s.
Yep. Been dating for like 20 years now. So it's been a while.
Yeah. And recently you have gotten into a relationship. So congratulations
Thanks,
on that.
Man. Yeah.
So excited to touch a little bit about that too. So a little intro and background on Joel for everyone listening that doesn't know him. He is, like I said, 38 years old, has lived in the Atlanta, Georgia area, specifically Lawrenceville, which is like 30 minutes northeast of Atlanta for the last 15 years. And Joel is really passionate about being outside, technology, and also your nieces and nephews.
Yeah, man. Been spending a lot of time with my niece and nephew. Just two kiddos. My sister, they're potty training right now. So yeah, just so fun to see 3-year-old boy and probably 18 months girl. Yeah. They're both potty training at the same time. So I guess.
Oh, really?
You know, maybe men are slower sometimes than the women. But
Well, maybe we'll get into that later with dating advice.
Who knows? Yeah.
Awesome, Joel. And your job is kind of related to technology as well, right?
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking. I have a software company, and I've built and continue building software for day traders.
Okay.
And so, super fortunate to be an entrepreneur, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's why I love supporting you too. Just thinking about what you carry with this podcast and carrying your regular job and all of that. I've always thought about starting a podcast, but never have, just like a lot of us. So I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I appreciate it. And just excited to have you on. And I know you're big into community as well at our church. And so I wanted to highlight that.
Thanks, man.
Just building community for people 20s, 30s, 40s, even at our church, and
Thanks, man.
being someone that is able to gather and rally people together. So excited to have you on, talk a little bit about that as well. So
Yep, that's great.
This last week, Joel, so people can get to know you a little bit better. What's been a high and what's been a low you've been working through recently?
Yeah, man. I would say the high is being out in Lake Lanier. It's been a busy season, so just made it out for the second time here on the lake and got some issues with the boat fixed. And got to wakeboard,
what was
took
going
some
on with
friends
the boat?
out. Just a couple plugs in the engine where you winterize the engine. The plugs were rusted out, and so we had to, fix the, what do you call that? Where you screw the plugs in, the threads, right? We had to rebuild the threads and then get new plugs for that. So, it's running great though. It's a classic boat, and I think being out in the water on a hot day is the best way to spend. So
nice.
Yep,
love it. Any lows recently?
Lows. Yeah, I mean, over the weekend I wasn't feeling so great and wondering if I was gonna have a voice to be here, but had a sore throat.
Oh gosh.
But quickly recovered and feeling 100% again. So I'm good. We're good. Yeah.
Love it. And honored that you come on and be here today a little bit, Joel. So what's as we're kind of jumping into things, your story and upbringing? Did you grow up in Georgia, and what's kind of led you to being where you're at now, 38 years old, following Jesus and still single?
Yeah, man. So I ended up in Georgia. I was 24 years old.
Okay.
And so I've been here in Georgia for about 15 years now.
Okay.
So what brought me here is one of my best friends moved here, and he moved here to become a teacher.
Okay.
And so, we just moved down. I moved down a year later. Atlanta became home. Loved it. In fact, I remember driving through Atlanta as a kid. You guys know, late at night, through the windy highway right through the city, on the way to Florida. And so I have that memory, and
just being like, I want to be here one day.
When my best friend moved here, childhood friend, I was like, this sounds great. So we, moved, and I've lived a lot of different places.
Okay.
And a few different churches during that time, but it's been awesome. Atlanta's home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. And then did you grow up in church, or where did kind of your faith background come from?
Yeah, great. So, and what's cool is like Atlanta has become home. Like my parents recently moved to Atlanta as well. My sister, as I mentioned, moved probably 8 years ago.
Okay.
So now the whole family, except my middle sister, is here. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But like that's part of my story is my family. I did grow up in the church. Like I had parents who raised me in the church. Remember going to Sunday school, being in church, doing church activities. Then as a middle school student, youth group, right? High school student, worship band. I was the PowerPoint guy.
No way.
Like back running the slides for the worship band.
Wow.
Just on that technology.
That person always was the most popular from what I remember.
Yeah, back then I had like great, beautiful like waterfall backgrounds in my slides and stuff, Now it's just a simple text at the bottom of the screen, but yeah, man. And so growing up in the church, I think has its plus and minuses. Like I don't want anyone that's listening to think that, like I'm better because I grew up in church. I think what matters most is what you're doing with your life right now in this moment. Even after you're done listening to this podcast, like where are you headed with potentially following Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
As long as you can remember, basically, you've been plugged into church.
I have, yeah. And there's great memories too, right? But I think, I just think about my life and I'm like, man, what's most important is how I'm growing right now,
Yeah. That's great. So was there a certain point where you really understood who Jesus was and what he did for you? Because in my story, I grew up in church too, but it wasn't until much later, like I was 26 when I really understood what Jesus did for me specifically.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I mean, to be honest with you, in the moment, I've been baptized a couple times. Like,
really?
I was baptized in middle school, and then I went to Israel. I was probably 33 30, 31, 32 maybe, and got baptized in the Jordan River.
Okay.
Which was incredible.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm done with depression, done with anxiety. You know, it's like one of those moments, all excited to like take some steps. And then throughout my 30s, that's still kind of been a thing. I've heard some other guys share that on this podcast, right? It's still ongoing, like learning to walk with Jesus, right? And so in moments, there's been a lot of different moments. I think one that I'll share quickly is like I got in an accident and totaled my Tesla Model 3.
Yeah.
And so it was very humbling. Like I literally turned left and did not see an oncoming FedEx truck. I think I was just locked in on the turn, and the car's turning right to get on the interstate, and just boom, hit. And I was like, what just hit me?
Yeah.
And I truly believe that like God was speaking to me through this, because that morning I was at a different church. It was July 3rd, and the pastor spoke on to live is Christ, to die is gain. And I remember being a little bit zoned out. In fact, there was a girl I was kind of interested in that was there. So you know how that goes, right? When you're at church was in that situation.
Just distraction.
Yeah, but I was like, what does that even mean? To live is Christ, to die is gain?
Yeah.
I don't really understand, you know? And then after I got in the wreck, I was like, holy cow. You know, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm alive, I'm going to live for Christ. And sure, dying is a privilege as Christians. It's like we get to spend eternity in heaven.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm alive, to live is Christ. That I want to live for Christ. I want to live for his glory. I want people to know him through my story, through my work, through my life. And so, yeah, super cool moment where God spoke to me.
How old were you when that happened, that accident and everything?
This was 2 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or a little bit over 2 years ago, right? In July.
So like 35, 36.
So, yeah, I would have been 36. And one more thing I'll say is, like, I remember vividly, like a few days later, a FedEx truck drove by my house, and I was outside. And I was actually looking at some of the parts I collected from the accident, right? And I was like, oh, that's it. Like, as long as, like, whenever I see a FedEx truck, now I can ask myself, what am I living for? And then also, what am I known for? Those are the two questions, because truthfully, I love Tesla. And it's like, I don't want to be known for driving a Tesla, or for my software company, or for financial success, or whatever it might be. Even for my wife, right? We can achieve, these can all be achievements if we're not careful. And it's like, I want to be known as a man of God.
Yeah. Wow.
So
it's amazing. Well, praise God you didn't die in that accident.
Man, yeah.
Well, amazing. And you walked away like
I came out like
unscathed.
untouched. Yeah, I had like a little scratch on my wrist.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wild. Why do you think, I don't know, do you think like God had you experience that, or like he allowed it to happen to like teach you something, or what's kind of been, you know, processing through that now 2 years later?
Wow, man. Theology is not my gifting. So I don't know if God allowed that. I mean, I think if we talk theology, I can quickly get pretty insecure, if I'm honest. But I'm like, you know, I think God knows everything that's going to happen. He probably has a tape. In my mind, I boil everything down to tech, right? I'm like, God probably has a tape of the future, which is mind-blowing. Like, for us to even consider, like, really? He knows everything?
Right.
He's everywhere, all times, all places. Certainly, it was just part of what he knew was going to happen in my life, I would say.
Yeah. And he maybe used it to teach you a lesson or something like that. Not teach you a lesson, but like help you learn from it. Like more of an appreciation for life.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget it, man. I wrote all about it. Like, it was pouring down rain.
Oh, wow.
And then when I got to where the accident happened, the roads were dry, no rain. And then for the next 40 minutes or so, while the accident was cleaned up, no rain. Then when we left, it rained all the way home. So it was like the rain stopped, because in that moment, you're already feeling not so great, right? So imagine having to be in the rain while everything is getting taken care of.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the grace of God over that situation.
Wow.
Of like, I can, you know, pack up all my belongings, you know, talk to the cops, move on. And then it rained all the way home. So it's like God parted the clouds. Yeah. Like for that experience, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. So let's say there's a guy listening, Joel. And I think it's really cool having you on at 38, because the majority of men who've come on to this point have been kind of around my age, like I'm 29.
Yep.
Most guys have been around my age. So kind of being a season ahead in life. Let's say there's guys listening now who they don't know if they believe in Jesus or they're trying to figure out faith. Any kind of encouragement you'd give to them to maybe try to figure it out more or go deeper?
That's a good question, man. I mean, hopefully you can look at the people around you and you have somebody who has been following Jesus. Now that can also be disappointing, right? Because as Christians, like sometimes Christians can disappoint people, right? But that's where I look at my life and I'm like, I hope that people will see a difference in me and the way I treat people and the way I conduct business. But for me personally, if someone's unsure about Jesus, I would just say, like, have you found fulfillment and joy in life outside of believing in Jesus?
Yeah.
Because that's been my experience. Like, I feel like I've had experienced a lot of great things that we could experience in life.
Yeah.
You know? And now I have a girlfriend.
Right.
Like someone that I could potentially be serious with. And there's still days when I feel depressed, right? And so you're like, man,
this isn't going to fulfill me.
Nothing is going to truly fill this void that I have in my heart outside of following Jesus.
Yeah. Wow.
Truthfully being connected to God through Jesus, right? So, yeah.
So good. Let's say you could go back yourself, Joel, and somehow talk to your younger self when you were like 30, let's say. Any advice you'd give him, 8 years ago, if you could go back and speak to that version of yourself?
I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into conversations on dating and stuff, but I mean, I would say it's never too late, right? I mean, I think if I'm 38 now, I think at 28, I probably thought, wow, I'm getting too old to find someone, you know?
Yep.
And I lost my hair at 26. So that was kind of an insecurity, right? But like you think, oh, like this happened or I'm now this old and like maybe I'm disqualified, feeling disqualified in this way. It's like, it's never too late to take a step and go for what you want in life, I guess. That's not totally a spiritual statement, but I would say God can always work in your life at any time.
Yeah.
You know?
And just taking a step in faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. I know I really want to talk a good bit about dating with you. And so
Sure.
That's something I feel like you'll have a lot of great advice to share, being 38 and kind of like growing up in church. What's it looked like, dating, and how is it being 38 years old now and still being single, but being in a relationship and being content, I assume? Like how is kind of all that navigated over the course of your life?
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see where all this goes.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm thinking about community first. Like you've been a big builder of community, and I think the church needs that. Like we need people in the church who care about people and care about people getting connected.
Yeah.
Right. And I was thinking about, before we started this, what is community, right? Because it's a word we throw around. I think I felt like, something came to me potentially from the Lord. It's like community is where every person is included, right? Because if I'm just hanging out with my buddies, like, is that community? But if there's a place where everyone can belong, everyone can come and make a connection and be seen and loved and known and maybe enjoy an activity, like went to Fun Spot, right?
Yeah.
For your birthday. I mean, you're the kind of guy that invites everybody. It's not like exclusive. It's like you'll meet somebody at church or I'm sure other places and you're like, hey, we're doing this thing. Why don't you come,
Right.
So to me, that's community.
Yeah.
And so I think community and dating overlap. So I just thought I'd start with that.
Yeah. I love it.
But
yeah. How's it been being in church? Have you seen kind of, I assume like community's changed for you over, the 15 years you've been in Atlanta.
Yeah, man.
Talk a little bit about that, like how community's changed and then how dating's played into that.
Yeah. So I've had small groups ever since I bought my house, probably, which was I was 29.
Oh, okay.
And bought my first house, and I've had roommates.
Oh, nice.
So you picture a house full with guys and
a
good space to kind of host a small group. We call them connect groups at Passion.
Yeah.
But I remember from the moment I got my house, I loved it because it has a long road frontage in a cul-de-sac street, but I'm not in the cul-de-sac, kind of around the corner.
Right.
But I knew I could park like 15 cars, and I was so excited. I was like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
Because the neighborhoods, like if you're from in the suburbs, right, usually it's kind of hard to park cars.
Right.
So I love my house for that. But yeah, I think I've always loved like mixed small groups. And I think over the years there could be some selfish interests in that, right? Like maybe I'll meet my person through a small group or through leading a small group, right? And always trying to pray through that. Like I don't want that to be the primary motivator.
Right.
But yeah, I've loved hosting small groups where we can pray, can speak about life and things that matter in life and read the Bible and stuff. So even at my previous church, and I think that's a great way to build friendships.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of friends through hosting those, female friends, guy friends.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it plays a big part in the church, and it should in any church.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit of my history there.
Yeah, I like it. And then at some point you met the girl you're dating now, kind of in that same mindset, I guess.
Sure. Good question. Yeah. So, I mean, I think when it comes to dating, it's been a long journey through bitterness, through frustration. Just to be real, I think the church does give us some mixed signals on dating too. Like as men, we're told like you got to pursue the woman, but at the same time, we're supposed to trust God. So I'm like, how do those two can feel opposing sometimes? Like, trust God and wait versus he who finds a wife,
Yeah.
So
he who finds a wife finds a good thing.
Yeah.
But then also the Bible says don't look for a wife.
Yeah. So you
remember
see
I shared that with you earlier this year, and you were like,
so,
this is in the Bible?
But I want to encourage people to not be bitter if possible, right? To believe for the best, because I actually think like what you believe is what, like, you create your reality. I actually think that, right? So if you believe that you're not going to meet somebody, if you believe there's nobody left for me, like that could be the reality. Like you have to believe that God's a good God, that like as I seek him, I love this song in our church, like all that I've needed, I know the Lord will provide, right?
Yeah.
Seek first his kingdom, follow God, and things can fall in place, right? Like, but
right.
Yeah, I think the journey of dating,
what's that kind of look like?
Can be frustrating, and I think it can be difficult. But as we grow personally, I think we're going to date better, right? And I've really this past year processed some things in my own life again that around fear, right? Why am I so afraid? Oh, I'm afraid of what people think. Oh, I'm afraid of what the girl's going to think. And then I'm afraid of being rejected, right? And so processing through fear, if we have freedom in Christ,
right,
then we should be living in freedom over the fear of other people, because we understand what Christ says about us.
Yeah,
we understand what God says about us. Man, that's easier said than done. But I think you process through why am I older and single? Yeah. It's certainly not because I'm not qualified. It's mainly how I think about myself. It's mainly how I think about myself. Where's my self-worth at? Right? And I guess learning to just like step into confidence as a man, but not fake confidence. Like you actually have to have really learn to like believe in yourself and see the value that you can bring.
Yeah. I like to use the words humble confidence.
Humble confidence. There you go.
I don't know if you've heard that before, but that's something I like to say just when I started to follow Jesus.
Yep.
It kind of gave me this like humble confidence about myself, where it's like I'm confident in who I am in my relationship with Jesus, and then I can still have a humility about me though. Like, okay, now I'm not better than everybody because I'm secure in my relationship with Jesus or in my achievements and things around me, but because of my relationship with Jesus, I should be serving others, and I should be like in that humble position like Jesus was. So I think that's something that the church can get wrong, and like people in the church around dating too, where people can say, oh, like I'm better than these people, or okay, let's not invite that group of people to this thing, like we were talking about with community and just being inclusive. And Jesus was an includer, you know?
Sure.
He wasn't like feeding the 5,000. No, y'all got to leave. Like you can't, we're not going to feed you, you know?
Right.
So I think that's kind of like how I like to think about confidence, just having the humility, but also the security that comes with it.
Yep. Well, I think it's cool because my girlfriend spoke that over me. She was like, "You're a humble man," and I was like, "Wow, like what a great thing to hear. Like what an honor that she would speak that over me, because that's truly something we can't declare over ourselves."
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So when she said that, it really meant a lot to me. And also, as far as dating advice goes, I don't know if I'm qualified to give dating advice at all.
Right.
But here we are. I'm going to do my best to like bring some value, you know? But, you know, she would say on a lot of dates, like men just want to talk about themselves. And I think, you know, that's good advice, right? Like I think you want to ask questions and get to know her, which brings up another point. You shouldn't have to prove yourself. Like if you're secure, it's like, man, I just want to show up and just be who I am. I don't have to list my requirements or why I'm the guy.
Here's all my achievements.
All my achievements. And I think I was in a place where I learned that, right? I didn't let out all the secrets and the mystery about who I am, like in the first few dates, right? Like I want to get to know her. And then on the topic of that, if you grow in security, how many times do we go into a date thinking, I wonder if she likes me?
Right.
I wonder what she thinks about me. Rather than like, hey, do I actually like her? You know, like, do I actually like see her more than just like what I was attracted to? Yeah. Like, I want to get to know her. I want her to talk. I want her to share. I want to know who she is. Right. Right. Versus being so caught up in, do I look good?
Proving
me, having to prove myself.
Yeah.
So
thinking all about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Interesting. So the relationship you're in now, how long have y'all been together?
Yeah, it's recent. A few months, several months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What was like practically speaking the first date like?
Oh man, yeah. So it was easy, you know? Like you know how sometimes you put so much effort into these things? That's what I would say too. Like I've learned from this. Yeah. Like you don't need to show up with flowers on the first date, you know? Like that's too much. You don't even know her yet. Yeah. You know? Right. Like you should show up to the first date thinking, man, I just want to get to know her. You know? No pressure here. Like I'm not trying to prove anything, bring anything. Yeah. So yeah, we had reconnected on a Saturday. Okay. At a lake event, lake day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You were there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it just worked. You know, we just really hit it off. And I had met her before at a thing through our church called Single-Minded. Yep. I only went one time. Yeah. But truthfully, that was about 3 months prior, and I didn't really make the connection. I noticed her. She noticed me. But I think I'm not going to be the guy at one of those events that's there to pick up a girl. Right. You know? Yeah. Or to get a number, however you want to put it. So, yeah, kind of left that night and, you know, thought maybe I'll see her again. I don't know. Didn't think about it too much, actually. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think that's something that personally, as I think about dating and relationships is, like you said, I don't want to go to an event like, okay, who am I here to like, who can I meet, you know? Okay, should I be talking to anybody? You know, should I be trying to get any numbers? Like, I just want to go and, like you said, not think about me. Like, how can I go to something and encourage other people, you know? That's right. How can I go and like make other people feel connected and welcome? And so, not saying that that's something that maybe you did that night, but it's kind of a byproduct maybe of what happened. Like, you were there, you happened to meet her, and then you were able to meet her again. Like, God brought her back into your path, and you had the realization or the clarity to, oh, okay, let me ask her on a date this time?
Yep. So I'm trying to process a few takeaways from this, but I didn't mention the first date, which was Monday. So only a couple of days later, like,
Okay.
she had just said, hey, I'm free Monday night. So that's the other thing too. Like, I think as a guy, when you're pursuing a woman, like the woman should also be giving you something as well, right?
Yeah.
So if you feel like, man, you're having to make all the plans, you know, she should be meeting you and just helping.
Get things scheduled.
Yeah, like communicating well, like giving you options. Like, hey, I'm free Monday night if it works for you. I mean, I think that's literally what it was. It was like in the afternoon.
Okay.
I was like, what's going on this week?
Yeah.
I'd love to see you, like we said. And she's like, actually, tonight. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
So, yeah, we went to Bar Taco in Buckhead. Another little thing that I think is great for dates is to sit next to her.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that versus sitting across, because when you're sitting across from her, it's like an interview, right?
Right.
You're sitting next to her, it's like a little bit more just like casual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like,
more
oh,
personable.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
And then practically as like, I mean, I follow a few dating coaches on Instagram, right? So I was earlier this year, like trying to like actually put some more effort into this. But
Okay.
so I would say like sitting next to her, you can start to initiate a little physical touch,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
during the date.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think
you don't want to save that till marriage, or?
Yeah, every physical touch till marriage, every single part of it. Yeah. But no, I think that was cool, and it just felt natural, man.
Yeah.
And it has just been easy, just getting to know each other, going on walks and things like that. So yeah.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yep.
Glad it's going well.
Yeah.
What do you think? Let's say you could talk to guys listening now, like our, average listeners, like I said, kind of before, around my age, late 20s that's listening now. Let's say there's single men and women listening. Any encouragement you'd give them, being 38, what you've learned to this point?
Yeah, I think backtracking, going backwards a little bit, right? Because we've talked about dating her, and this isn't everything. I mean, who knows?
Right.
Not
married,
we're
not engaged.
literally just walking through this and trying to figure it out. One thing I processed that I want to share about this is that I had been on 2 dates the Friday before. And I don't date a lot. This is probably the first time in my life that I was maybe dating multiple women, if you could say. 2 first dates in the same day.
Okay.
Just circumstantial. I've since talked to both of these women and said, hey, just not the right fit.
Sure.
But I think I would encourage dating multiple women in a way that honors them, but being able to get to know what you like. Because I think on Saturday there was no pressure. I was like, I don't have to have this one girl.
Yeah. The perfect line.
I think because I think I've been that guy, right? Like where you see a girl, you get her number, you're maybe starting to talk, and you just become obsessed. You're like, oh, this is everything. This is the one. And kind of like I said earlier, wait, I don't even know her yet, right? So it's like slow down and evaluate who she actually is as a person.
Right.
Too.
Right. Yeah.
Which would lead me to another topic. But yeah, I think that's helpful, right? Like, we have to put ourselves out there. I think, why am I older and single? I think a lot of fear. Like a lot of fear of like approaching women, a lot of fear of, having to hurt a woman or being hurt by a woman. How crazy is that, right?
Right.
Oh, I don't want to hurt her, so I'm not sure, so I just won't even try to get to know her.
That's real though.
Or being rejected on my end.
Right.
And so there's just overthinking, fear, paralysis by analysis, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that's good. I think that's going to encourage men that are listening. So like you'd go back and tell yourself around 30, like, hey, ask out more women or go on more dates.
Yeah, I think go on more dates. I think you have to put effort in. I mean, you got to think about if I didn't date a lot, truthfully. I mean, I processed through this recently in the last couple months. I've dated more than I give myself credit for. But yeah, I think you have to make an effort. Like, I never made a true effort on a dating app. I think you can toss some pictures up and just kind of like not really make a good effort, you know? But I think there is some effort involved. There is some planning,
Yeah.
Learning how to date, learning what women want.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, this is where I process too out loud, and I'm like, God's plan versus my plan.
Yeah.
You know, like I came into this year with a lot of goals for my business, my family, my relationships. I actually bought a dating course.
Really?
I told my girlfriend this on the first date. I was like, I bought this dating course, you know, and she thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But I was like, I had never even used it. I never even went through the course. And I think there's some fear around that, right? But it was a step to say, I'm going to learn what women want, how to dress,
Okay.
like how to date well,
Yeah.
how the process works.
That's kind of what I'm hoping this podcast
Yeah.
can do too, you know, to
Right.
help give men who want
And
advice or wisdom, or, okay, I'm trying to learn about dating. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like a lot, that was where I was at in my mid 20s, was like, I'm trying to learn about dating for the first time. And the only things I see are, looking back, I feel like pretty toxic stuff, you know, like how to get more matches on dating
Right.
apps.
And
Okay,
certainly
how to
like
flex more, how to like, you know, one up the girl.
Yeah.
So she like thinks you're cooler than, you know what I mean?
No. So it's not manipulation.
Right.
This is great actually, because one of the reasons I hit it off with the girl I'm dating now is like, I believe being, and this is a concept from one of my friends, but honest, open, and transparent
Yeah.
is hot, right? So you're not manipulating, and truthfully, you're being honest. You're like, even on that first date, I said, man, I feel like I'm horrible at dating, by the way.
Yeah.
But like, this has been a crazy experience for me because I've been on a few dates recently. Now we're on a date, and it was just like, we're just being real, you know?
Just being honest.
And she's
transparent.
like, yeah, I've been dating a lot too, and it can be frustrating, whatever.
Yeah.
So you just kind of open up,
Right.
right? Just be honest. Hey, like, this makes me uncomfortable. Hey, like, just truth.
I have a little like fear, maybe.
I have a little fear here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even comes up in dating, like fear of like, oh, wow, this is getting pretty serious. Like, what if I want to explore other options? You know?
Yeah.
Like, we've even talked about that stuff. Isn't that, it's kind of crazy, I would think.
Yeah.
You know, earlier in a relationship. But I think just being honest about your feelings
Right.
of like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is what I like. This is what I don't like. And so definitely not manipulation. Like when I'm talking about dating strategies or dating, you know, definitely this podcast obviously has a lot of great wisdom and advice and thoughts.
Yeah.
I think there's practical things about psychology, about the way men think, the way women think, masculine, feminine. Like thinking, am I being feminine? I can be pretty feminine, probably, right? Sometimes, like when I'm thinking about.
No, not in my experience.
Oh yeah, I'm only masculine. That's right. But no, these are the kind of things that I would encourage guys to look into. Like, what does it look like to be masculine? And it's not sometimes what the world would think, right? But
Yeah.
or what does it look like to lead? Doesn't mean I'm making every decision. It means I'm maybe walking through the decisions with my partner, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay. What does it look
I thought
like?
I thought there was something else I was going to add, but yeah, definitely not manipulate.
Right.
I
I think this is hopefully, you know, a resource that maybe, like we had talked about, if you had somehow found this podcast when you were 30 or, you know, in your early 30s, late 20s, like this could have helped you, you know?
Yeah, I believe it, man, for sure. Yeah, I feel like there's more I wanted to add.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to rewind and process through what I've said. But
yeah,
I mean, there's a lot that I've learned, a lot that I've kind of realized in the last 3, 4, 5 months. Oh yeah, getting to know a woman. I would say, if I can share this, like there's been a lot of guys on the podcast that have talked about pornography, right? And so I was caught up in this earlier this year, and it was like beginning the month of actually when I reconnected with my girlfriend. The beginning of that month, it was on the 22nd when we reconnected. But at the beginning of that month, I made a commitment: no porn and no alcohol. And so I'm kind of a goals guy, right? I'll say I want to set out to sell this much software this month, or I want to do a mile a day this month, or it's kind of like the beginning of the month is a good time. But I knew the prior month I was feeling pretty depressed. And I was like, man, and depression for me, I feel like I've realized lately is more around fear. It's around like, I just don't feel like doing the hard things or tackling, you know, what needs to get done today. And so I'd rather just lay in bed. As an entrepreneur, I really have that decision. Some days, right? Like I don't have to show up.
No one's like checking if you're logging on or
except
not.
my customers. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was a big commitment, and God honored that, right? Like literally then, I reconnected with her and we're off in this fun relationship,
Yeah.
just getting started. But yeah, I think you have to look at your life and say, where are the problems at? Like, is it good for me to be, getting a margarita 3-4 times a week for lunch? Probably not. That probably just contributes to any depression that's left. And is the pornography good for me? No. What that's gonna do, it's gonna make me think of women as objects, right? And I don't want that. What I want is to see her as a person,
Yeah.
a daughter of God. I want to know who she is.
Right.
Right. I don't want to know her for her body. And so pornography, I think, for a whole host of reasons, already been discussed in other episodes,
Right.
is toxic.
Yeah.
And so, since that month, continued that commitment, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, being 38, you go through this stuff, right? I think I went 3 years
Yeah.
probably without looking at porn, and then it creeps back, and then it's gone. And so my hope would be that, from that point 3 or 4 months ago
Yeah.
into the future,
Right.
no more of that for me. Right.
Wow.
So
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing, being vulnerable about that.
yeah.
What does it look like practically? Okay, now you're dating the woman you're in a relationship with now. What does it look like trying to hear from God as you're discerning, how to lead the relationship?
Wow. Yeah. I feel like, I don't want to be like weird. I feel like this is so personal, it's like, I feel like when you're early dating someone for 2 or 3 months, like every little sign you're like, oh, God's brought us together,
Yeah.
But there have been some cool things where like
Personal stories. Yeah.
we feel like God may have brought us together, and just different signs of things people have said. I'll tell people about her and they'll literally say like her kind eyes. I've had several people say that after I've showed a picture of us, and so there's, I think, ways that God can speak. And truthfully, Carlton, like I'm pretty hard on myself. Like I've told my friends this and even feel some guilt about this. Like I haven't prayed for my wife a lot, I haven't. And I don't encourage not praying for your wife, but it's also out of fear, right? Because I think I've thought, well, if I don't pray, I can't fail.
Yeah.
Right? Or God can't fail me. And so it's safer just not to pray about it. And so not the right mindset. But that's okay, because guess what? God knows our thoughts anyways. Like he knows the desires of my heart. And so like literally the Holy Spirit's interceding on my behalf for the things that maybe I'm not praying for.
Right.
And I hope that's a right, as in, I agree with you. But I mean, it's like, prayer, I would say, is something I need to lean into in this relationship, right? Because it's like, man, I need to know from God if this is the person I'm going to marry.
Right.
And so, and just being aware of what's going on around you. I think God connects people and circumstances, and there's like things that are not by random chance that happen.
Right.
So that's kind of what I look out for.
That's great. Last thing on dating, any specific advice you'd have for me? I feel like, we're good friends, like what encouragement you'd give me around, 29, single, like, kind of the circles that we run in around dating and whatnot. Yeah.
Well, this is tricky, man, because again, I tell you to be bold, but then when you're too bold, you might be creepy. So I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like dating can be frustrating. If we're having guy talk and we're getting real, it's like,
right.
But it was cool. One of my friends who knows my girlfriend, the two girls were talking about it, and she was like, that's just not Joel. Like, I don't know how that happened. But at Lake Day, I was bold, like we started talking and, I was teasing her about the couple dates I had been on already the day before, so it was just like, there was nothing at stake here. Yeah. And I was just having fun. But then at the end of the day, I saw her leaving and I walked up to her and I said, hey, I said something like this. I said, hey, man, the chats today were so fun. I'd love to see you next week if you're down for that. And I hate using the word date because I believe that like it just puts all this pressure on it. So I don't know. I have my theories and stuff, but I think just being bold would maybe be some advice for you. Like maybe step into more uncomfortable situations and make that ask that you've been waiting to make potentially.
Yeah.
I have no idea if that would even resonate with you, but
no, it's good. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes like, part of my story is I can just like tiptoe around,
Yeah.
just be like, should I, shouldn't I?
Right.
Like, should I send the DM? Should I not? Like, I don't know about her. Like, what if it messes it up? Then it's weird at church.
Yeah.
Like, there's just too much overthinking, man.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta just,
have the confidence.
yeah.
And do
I
it.
think there is some truth to that. Yeah.
That's, I think, what I've tried to do, the last 3 years now, following Jesus and being single, is
Yep.
having confidence in my own quiet time with the Lord and what I feel like he's telling me to do.
Yep.
And then just doing that.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, I don't have to question, okay, should I do this or not? Like, well, I'm pretty confident this is what God is wanting me to do.
Yeah.
And like, there's a whole process that I have where even this podcast, like I took it to mentors and advisors in my life. Like, hey, what do you think about this? I feel like God's telling me to do this. And then like, okay, doing it. And so I can have confidence in that where, a lot of people would be like, that's kind of crazy. Like, why would you start a podcast? Or, that's going to be a lot of work. And those were a lot of fears I had, but I had the confidence knowing this is what God's telling me to do. So I'm going to do that. And so even taking that mindset into dating is what I've done the last 3 years, is like in my own quiet time praying about, okay, is there anyone that you're wanting me to pursue, God? And then, okay, if yes, then do that.
Yeah.
If no, then okay, be content that it's a no right now.
That really encourages me too, man. Like even thinking about making decisions with my business, with my Connect group coming up, with my relationship, and like I was saying earlier, God's plan versus my plan. God's plan swoops in.
Yeah. My plan sucks.
My plan's crap. Yeah. I bought a dating course.
I don't want my plan.
I was going to like take photos, optimize my profile, become like a premium Hinge member.
Okay.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
It never happened, right?
Yeah.
I just never got it done.
Yeah.
Halfway through the year, the content's still sitting there. I haven't watched the content.
Yeah.
Never took the pictures,
Right.
That was my plan. And then I was on 2 dates. That was my plan. 2 great girls maybe could have ended up with. I don't believe there's like one person. That's so much pressure.
Yeah.
Like there could be multiple people for us, right?
Right.
But like my plan was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to make a little more effort. And then all of a sudden the next day swooped in the girl I'm dating now. And I truly believe that was God's plan, at least for now. It's like, prayer is something I'd like to lean into. I read the Bible for the first time last year through.
Yeah.
So see, even as a Christian,
me too,
it's never too late. I was 37 years old.
I never read the Bible.
Finally, I didn't read the Bible a lot. I did Bible quizzing in high school. So like I have knowledge and memories of like memorizing scripture. But
sword drill.
Yes, a little bit of sword drill.
Ephesians 3:16. Go. No, just kidding.
God can do all things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyways, all that being said, it's never too late. Like start reading the Word. Last year it was big for me to get through the whole Bible.
Yeah.
And begin to like see the whole story. And in prayer, I still feel like I just said, never really prayed for my wife, and God's working it, already.
Right.
But I want to experience God. Like if I truly say I'm a Christian, then like we talked about earlier, honest, open, and transparent. I don't want to be, putting on a show or being a Christian, but not truly like, I think you put this on your story of like, who wants a relationship with God? And I put me,
Yeah.
Because some days I feel like, man, I want to feel that hand in hand, walking with God all day long kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm still sort of looking for that, And I think, here's me being hard on myself.
Yeah.
And instead of quickly saying, but if you look at the fruit of the Spirit, He's given me love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness.
Yeah.
Like He's giving me self-control. So then indicates that I am walking with God, you know?
Yeah.
But I love that picture of you, like, in your quiet time in prayer with God, like, hey, God, give me that next step, you know?
Yeah.
Like, lead me. So,
And believing that
yeah.
God wants to communicate with us
Yeah.
and like have that relationship with you.
Yeah, he does.
It's just
Yep.
you taking the step, understanding that it's there.
Yeah.
So going
That's
in,
good, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Going into last couple questions. So is there a Bible verse specifically that you want to touch on that kind of encapsulates the season that you're in, or do you have a verse for your life that sticks out that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, so I've had this as my Wi-Fi password at the house.
Uh-oh.
So I guess
Gonna come
if you're ever outside the house and you need Wi-Fi, here it is.
Come and hack you, yeah.
It's John 10:10. Capital J 1010. So but basically what it says is the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. And then the part that I really like is, but I have come so that you may have life and have it to the full.
Yeah.
So life to the full. So fully living, like I almost heard it said at a core class, like the great adventure with God, right? Life to the full.
Yeah.
Like the great adventure is, I believe, truly, and I'm like I said, I'm stepping into this right now and still trying to figure it out, but I believe the best adventure over like travel, over like, you know, being a business owner, being a big famous podcaster. I mean, these are things that I dream of personally. Being on stage, speaking in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, but truly the great adventure, life to the full, is knowing Jesus, walking with Jesus. There's nothing, I believe, that can satisfy us like walking with him and experiencing life with him. So
Yeah.
that verse, I would say, is, you know, has been, like I said, it's been my Wi-Fi password. So I think it's a great way to wrap this up potentially.
Yeah.
And something that I would love to leave with the people.
Yeah.
You know, if you're following Jesus, I think you can see through me, like there's always another step, right? Hopefully. And there's not guilt in, oh, I don't pray. Like, I've just been honest about that. Like, prayer is tough for me, right?
Yeah.
But another step, talk to a friend, just like we've done now. I've been encouraged to pray.
Yeah.
So, or if you're not following Jesus, what would you say about that? How would you rate?
If someone's not
if
following
someone's
Jesus
still watching this,
and not following Jesus, what should they do?
Yeah.
You should follow Jesus.
Simple. Simple. Yeah. Truthfully, I mean, practically, I think there's a lot of great resources that would indicate he was God, right? He literally defeated death, was killed, resurrected. Yeah. And so,
I'd say just look at like, not to get into a super deep tangent on
another term.
Is Jesus real or not? But I would just say explore it for yourself.
Yep.
If you truly search for God and Jesus, I believe that you'll find him. So I'll just say that. Last thing, Joel, we'll
fully
wrap up.
Living in Jesus, fully alive.
Yes.
Yep.
Last thing, we'll wrap up with this. So let's say someone's been listening now 50 minutes or so. What's one thing you want to leave them with, specifically single men who have been listening this whole time, okay, heading into the weekend? Take a note on their phone, write this down in their reminders, journal this heading into the weekend. One last piece of wisdom from Joel.
Yeah, if you're single, I would just say level up. You know, like I think we can be so too focused on finding that person. And, you know, I was putting in some effort in January. Maybe that was me. I don't know. And then I kind of gave it up for the next 5 months, and then it worked out. But I think level up. How can you become a better man practically in your career? But also, like, how can you level up in how you follow Jesus? Like both. Like think about yourself and what you're bringing to a relationship. Yeah. And think about whenever you're watching this in the next month, kind of like what I did. I made a commitment, right? For this month, I'm going to, and then do it for a month.
Yeah. Be disciplined.
So that would be, I think, what comes to mind here at the end for sure.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing, Joel. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Yeah.
And I know that this is going to
so fun. Thanks,
help
man.
encourage single men and women listening, and personally encourage me just being bolder. I think that's great advice that I
Oh, cool.
can personally take from this conversation. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in this week to the Single Man Podcast. If you made it to this point and you would want to leave some encouragement to everyone else listening and to Joel personally for coming on, I'd love for you to leave a comment down below and subscribe on YouTube and follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify to continue to receive updates from us on navigating faith and dating. Again, this is Carlton French. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. We'll be back next week with a new episode. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Single Man Podcast. If someone you know would benefit from this week's episode, I'd love for you to text them the link and invite them to listen. You never know how a simple invitation could change someone's life. We'll be back next Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, with a new episode. Until then, check out the video version of the podcast on YouTube, and you can engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.